Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Just last week we reported that Airmiles Angus Robertson was told he must cut down on international travel and use Zoom as much as possible to save the taxpayers a lot of money and to benefit the environment. Instead of flying on planes, use a little bit of electricity, sitting in front of a computer, have your meetings that way. And that didn't last long, did it? Because just a couple of weeks after going to Copenhagen, he's now about to fly off to the USA. Simple, isn't it? When you've got the ability to fly all the way around the world, first class, quaffing champagne, eating your caviar, sitting at the pointy end of a plane at 30,000 feet, why the hell wouldn't you? Especially when the taxpayers are paying for it. He's got no reason to go. He's got no need to go. Nothing he's doing there couldn't be accomplished over a Zoom call. But this is Angus Robertson, of course. He needs to feel important. After all, he'll soon be out of a job and he'll never have another one. And so, yeah, let's get the air miles in so that I can get a few holidays when eventually I'm thrown out of office. Let's take a look to see why this greedy, grasping oaf won't use Zoom. Here goes. So once more he's getting his big fat oafish arse onto a plane and flying over the world, because why not? Airmiles Angus Robertson to head out to the USA at taxpayers' expense just weeks after being in Copenhagen. The Scottish Government's External Secretary only returned back from Denmark a couple of weeks ago, but is heading straight back out to New York to mark Tartan Week. Of course, because if he doesn't go to Scotland, people in Scotland might forget that he exists. Although when he gets there, they'll all say, who the hell's this? Airmiles Angus Robertson is living up to his nickname as he looks to head out to the USA at taxpayers' expense just weeks after landing back in Scotland from another publicly funded trip to Copenhagen. The Scottish Government's External Affairs Secretary is racking up the plane trips, but he's also been in Brussels this year. It's only the 2nd of April. He was one of the favourites to take over from Nicola Sturgeon, but failed to enter the race, stating that he wanted to spend more time with his family. His family obviously being air stewards. But his frequent journeys abroad have ramped up in recent months, and he even spent a week in China in November. So much for spending time with your family. Seems very odd. You like to spend time with other people's families, it seems. The SNP minister is set to head to New York and Washington DC in order to celebrate Tartan Week. Every year the government sends a representative to meet with investors and promote the country abroad, because no one's ever heard of Scotland. But this is also an expensive experience for the taxpayer, with more than £130,000 being spent last year on expenses, with Mr Robertson and his officials staying in luxury hotels, because of course they're not staying at some flea pit or the Yimka, are they? Oh no, it'll be the Peabody. Anyway, and putting on lavish events for diplomats while out there. They shouldn't be dealing with diplomats. They don't have sovereign status. This is during a climate and cost of living crisis as well. I will disregard the climate crisis. There isn't one. If there was truly a climate crisis, they would have banned private jets. But there is a cost of living crisis, and of course the whole of the infrastructure in Scotland is falling down. They can't do operations, they can't afford school books. But Fat Angus can get his arse onto first class to fly to the States. Amazing, isn't it? The SNP minister is expected to meet technology firms and the World Bank. He'll need to be in with the World Bank, because if Scotland ever got independence, they'll be bankrupt, and they will need the World Bank to step in and say, OK, we'll save you. But it's also to take part in the annual Tartan Day parade. Well, it matches his eyes, I suppose. We previously told how actor Dougray Scott is leading the parade along 6th Avenue in New York on April the 6th as Grand Marshal. God help us all. Among other engagements, at least Dougray Scott lives there. He's not being funded. He lives in America, doesn't he? Anyway, among other engagements, Mr Robertson will also meet technology firms which invest or are planning to invest in Scotland, and to meet World Bank representatives to discuss Scotland's funding for inclusive education projects in partner countries in Africa. Why on earth is Scotland trying to educate Africans when it cannot educate Scots? Now, he says he wants to spend a lot more time with his family. And here's his staffers. These are the people he's going to New York with. I don't think they're his family, or at least not yet. They could be the mother of his children, I think, one day in his dreams. What a sad man. Of course, they're smiling. They're getting all that at taxpayers' expense as well. How very pleasant for them. Mr. Robertson said, Tartan Week is an opportunity to celebrate Scotland's historic ties with North America, and also a week for him to celebrate getting his arse first class to America. I've done that gag once. I'm doing it again. I don't care. It's what he's thinking. What else can I do? What else? Where else can I go? Any chance of getting down to Venice? There's a film festival. Is there a Scottish film? Let's go there. You know, it's this sort of thing. He said, I want to encourage greater connections. Yeah, for yourself, for when you're thrown out of office. This is what this is. Networking, isn't it? He says, and greater trade and investment between our countries. What? What does Scotland have outside of whiskey that the Americans would buy? Literally nothing. As a showcase of Scottish culture and heritage in the UK, Tartan Week is also a major opportunity for our culture and creative sectors to reach new audience and markets. Well, audience and markets seem to think that Scotland is the same as Braveheart. Literally. And it's got nothing to do with it. And if ever there was an abomination of history, it's Braveheart, isn't it? Anyway, he said he wants to reach these new sectors in line with our recently published International Culture Strategy and our Scottish Connections Framework. Now, these were the glossy brochures that they produced at great expense from the public purse to show what will happen when the wet dream of independence finally comes true. Of course, it never will. Especially if he keeps doing things like this. He's alienating people. Grannies are dying, but he can fly off to the States. Marvellous, isn't it? Robertson is one of the government's most frequent flyers, heading out across the world to glad-hand diplomats. His role is as Culture, External Affairs and Constitution Secretary. The latter two offices mainly devolve to the UK government. Indeed, as they should be. He shouldn't be flying abroad at all. If he has a foreign incident he needs to deal with, Zoom or telephone. There's no way he should be able to bugger off all around the world, shaking hands, drinking, eating and sitting in top quality hotels, all at the public expense, simply because he has a hard-on for international travel and feeling important. He's not important. He's a nobody. Let's treat him as such and let's tell him no more. Absolutely no more. Coming up. He has no need to travel to all these places. He just likes doing it because he's full of his own pompous self-importance. Look at me, as he says, as I go, I'm going first class. I'm staying at the best hotels. And how will you be paying, sir? Well, I'm not paying. The Scottish taxpayer is paying. Really? Why? Because I can't be bothered. I want to do everything at the taxpayer's expense. I want to eat, drink and be merry and have other people pick up the tab. Because I'm Airmiles Angus Robertson, don't you know? That seems to be how his life is. Well, let's make him ex-Air Miles. Let's make him ex-MSP. Let's make him Mr. Nobody. And he'll never fly again. Not if he has to fork out of his own pocket. Thanks for listening. Do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video, and I'll speak to you later. Bye.